Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you how to make a Chico Bon Bon cake. And if you want to just see the cake part, skip ahead 11 minutes and it'll take you right there. Otherwise, let's get ready. Alright, to begin with Chico Bon Bon, I'm going to start with his body. I took some gum paste and I colored it with copper because he's not actually really brown and he's not really orange. He's kind of in between, so I chose to use copper. I kind of made that very gently rounded off square shape you see to the right, and his head is going to be an even bigger gently rounded square shape to the right or to the left. I am going to put a little piece of a lollipop stick into the body to then connect the head to. His head is enormous. It is bigger than his body. He's one of those guys. At least his body has a little bit of girth to it, so it's not so terrible, but he's got a really big head. I also flattened it off in the front in order to add his face. I just took some more of the same color copper and added a whole bunch of white to it to make it a lighter color, but we're still in the same color family. So I pressed down the top of the face there that you can see. It was kind of round. I pinched in at the sides where it went flat. So this way he's going to have cheeks that stick out and are rounded, and where his eyes are going to go is tucked in and flat, more close to his head, to try to give him a little bit more dimension and try to follow that shape that his head, that his face has. I cut that little V shape out of the middle. That'll go between his eyes. And when I get it to the right shape, lots of patting that I edited out there because I was like, pat, pat, pat. I took all that out, but once you get it in shape, attach it with a little bit of water. Using my ball tool, I'm hollowing out 2 big divots to make his eyes. And his eyes are huge, so be generous with the divot that you make. I'm filling them each with a little ball of white gum paste. Fill it all the way up. Making another hollow inside the center of his eyes for the iris. His eyes are kind of like a tealy bluish green color. So that's what I'm trying to do here, filling it in with some teal. I put a little black ball in the center of each one for the pupil, and he is like the most hyper alert, aware monkey you have ever seen. I added 2 little brown dots of gum paste there for his nostrils, and they kind of go between his eyes, so they're small and close together, so pay attention to that. I'm doing his mouth. I just hollowed out his mouth, and the mouth is kind of in the middle of the part that comes out, but also doesn't go too far past his eyes, so also be careful with the size of that. I filled it in with some black, but it's still recessed. I didn't fill it in all the way. I just gave it kind of like a black background. I'm cutting a very thin little rectangle of white here for his teeth that I am going to put across the top there. And I gotta say, I'm a little bit jealous because they're perfect, and right now I've got 2 kids in braces and it sucks. So I'm a little jealous of his nice neat teeth there. All right, now we've got his teeth, we got his face. You can see I put ears on. I don't know what happened to footage. I thought it was recording and I think my battery died. It was just 2 balls of the same copper gum paste with a little ball of the light color in the center. And then I flattened them a little bit and cut off a side just to stick them to the side of the head. I added 2 little white pieces for the highlights there, and now I'm going to add his headband. His headband is, as you could probably guess, just a white, long stripe of gum paste. And I'm going to add a very thin little red stripe of gum paste down the center of it. I'm rolling it out as thin as I can. And then I'm going to very, very carefully try to trace out a little skinny stripe that I'm going to try to lay down nice and neat. There's a lot of trying here. There's a lot of attempts and ease for efforts in this headband. And I got to tell you, I had to redo this headband like seriously probably 5 times. It's just a stupid headband, but it gave me so much grief because it was too fat and then it was too thin. Anyway, and to get it to fit, I had to trim off the top of his face there above his eyes to bring it down low enough so it would sit just above his eyes, because it doesn't sit real high on his head. It sits just above his eyes. So you kind of got to be careful of the location, but you got to make sure that little V shows between his eyes under the headband. So pay attention to that. You might have to do some tweaking. All right, this is the same copper color as before. Rolling out lots of pieces. I'm going to make a tail right there. I'm just going to curl it and put it to the side to let it dry. I didn't do anything else with it. I'm going to roll more pieces, as you see, long, thin pieces that are going to become the arms and the legs. I'm going to specifically work on the legs here. So I've got my 2 little orange pieces, and now I'm adding his tube socks. And all I can think of when I was doing this was SpongeBob, how he's got just a little bit of leg showing, and then the very tall white tube socks with the stripes on it and the big bulbous shoes at the bottom. So I don't know who was the character designer of Chico Bon Bon, but maybe he got inspired there, or she, I should say. Maybe they got inspired there. All right, now I'm working on his shoes. They are red blobs of gum paste, as you can see. I took a circle, a white circle of gum paste, cut it in half, and now I'm basically cutting out like a little hat. So I've got a brim along the flat bottom and just round it off at the top. That is going to become the part of his sneaker that goes up and around the toe. You can see I put a sole on there, but it was no good. I got rid of it, so I'll fix it and show you the proper attempt in a little bit. So pretend you didn't see that. Pretend you only can see the toe going on. So wrap the flat bottom part of the hat around the bottom of the shoe, and then the top part of the hat wraps up and over the toe, and you might have to tweak it a little bit to make it even. Got to make sure it doesn't jump away because they are very jumpy, these little pieces. And do the same thing with the other one. Make your little hat, put water on there to make it stick, wrap it around the base, curl it around the toe, and then fix it so it looks a little bit more even. Because, yeah, you might have to do some tweaking. Here's how I did the sole the proper way, because it was just too small before. I put it on the gum paste after it had the toe attached, and then just traced it. Nice and easy, right? Like no tricks here. A little bit of water, stick it to the bottom, and then the sole actually like sticks out around the toe and everything the way it's supposed to. I tried the other way. It just didn't work. So that's what you want to do for those. Now, to finish up our sneakers, you're going to add 2 little rectangles to the top, just like that. That's going to become what's supposed to be the laces. I put little marks in it with my knife. You can't really see it, though, from this distance, but they're there. I cut out a whole bunch of little rectangles, little tall skinny ones to make the racing stripes on the side of his shoes. So there's 2 for each side. So there you go. That's what it looks like. And then poof, there you go. There they are on the other side. And make sure you have a little gap between them. There is like a little space. And what you do for the one, poof, you do for the other. See, I'm using my magical word poof there. So now I've got my sneakers. They're all nice and racy looking, very exciting. Now I'm going back to his socks. I'm adding some very dark blue that I rolled out really thin as I could get it, and cutting out thin little stripes as thin as I could make them. And I'm very carefully going to wrap 2 bands around near the top of his socks. So once again, channeling our SpongeBob energies, we are making tube socks for our Chico Bon Bon and just carefully reattaching them. Nothing is actually attached, like the legs and the shoes and everything aren't attached yet. You're going to see what I end up doing in a second. I'm just making sure everything matches up. I ended up trimming the bottom of the heel off a little bit so the shoe will sit flat on the surface and stick up in the air like that. But this is what I did. I flattened the one end of the leg, trim it off so it doesn't stick out too far, add some water, then press it under his little hiney there. Now I'm going to put the tube socks on with a little bit of water. Try not to mess up those stripes. I messed them up. I had to fix them. The shoe goes on, and then the shoe fell off. So what we have to do, add a little piece of dried spaghetti. I just shoved it all the way up his leg, through this tube sock, through his leg, into his hiney there. Trim off the extra however you want, snap it off. It's just dried spaghetti. Add some water, and oh, look, it doesn't fall off now. Hooray for victories. And yeah, this is like me learning how to do this, so take my experience and run with it. All right, same thing on the other side. Shove that piece of dried spaghetti all the way on up in there and break off the extra. Put a little piece of dried spaghetti in the tail. At this point, it's had enough time to set, so you can see it's holding its shape very nicely. Thank you, gum paste. Stick it in however you like so you can see it, and then move on. We're going to do his belt now. His yellow belt, his tool belt, because he is a monkey with a tool belt. Chica Chica Bon Bon, Chica Bon Bon. I got into that theme song. So I just cut out some yellow gum paste, long stripe of it, kind of thick. He's got a really big tool belt compared to his body size. Just wrap it all the way around. And then we're going to decorate it. And again, this is like where he looks so cute there, right? He doesn't look creepy at all. From the top, he looks creepy, but like face on, he looks cute. I'm going to do the little emblem on his tool belt first. I cut out the same color blue as his eyes, or the teal color. I cut out a circle, and then I'm just trimming off some edges to make it into whatever shape that is. Geometry was too long ago. Stick it on his tool belt, and then I took a little piece of yellow and crinkled it up for that lightning bolt he has. A little red rectangle. I'm using my little swizzle straw there to cut out 2 little nips from the end and pinch in the center, and there you go. You got a little wrench that took no effort at all. Stick that in the middle of his blue symbol there. Put the lightning bolt on top with a little bit of water, and you will have his tool belt well begun. And again, this is where it kind of fell apart because I thought that I had recorded doing little tools, but I didn't. So yeah, I'll discuss that in a second. This is how I made his hands. I took a piece of that same beigey color before, make a flat circle out of a big thick flat circle. He's got really big hands and only 4 fingers. So you cut out the thumb, cut out the little triangle between the thumb and the first finger to make it stick out more. Cut 2 little slices for the fingers, round them off, put them into place, and then add your arm. And there you can see the tools on his tool belt. They were just little gray pieces I rolled out and then stuck to the belt and then put a little rectangle of yellow over. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened to it. Final touch, I'm giving him his little fur details. I'm using a brown edible food coloring marker and just putting some very fine little lines just kind of here and there all over him, over his head, his arms, his legs, his body. And put him aside to let him dry a little bit. Now we're going to get right into the cake. I have 2 tiers of 8-inch chocolate cake, and I have some very purple buttercream icing, just regular old vanilla buttercream icing that I made. I'm stacking up my tiers just like normal. Gonna do my coating on the outside just like normal. Gonna stick it in the fridge a little bit just like normal. When it comes back out, I'm going to add some more icing to it, but I go over this in all the other videos too, and if you want to see how to crumb coat, you can always check in my basics playlist. I have a whole bunch of helpful starter type videos that you can look at. But I'm just going to move right on here. Okay, so we have it all iced. It's had time to chill in the fridge. And what I want to do is add some little sugar crystals to the cake to kind of make like a radiant effect. So I cut out a design that I found online of just a pie pattern. And I painted water over my buttercream and then sprinkled the glitter, crystals on top. I put the water down so that it would stick to the icing better. And see, I'm carefully lifting and kind of tipping those little triangles to the sides to make my mess, a little bit more under control. If it's a little thin, I'm going back and just adding a little bit more. If I got it in between where I didn't really want it, like right there, because my buttercream is pretty firm and set, and I didn't get water anywhere but on the certain icing spots, I just brushed it off with a paintbrush, dry paintbrush. Nice and easy, right? I'm going to show you now how I made the tools. I found a picture of Chico Bon Bon that I liked that had him with the purple striped background with his blue tools coming out behind him, which is kind of the effect I was going for. So I made a spade, as you see there. I ended up not using it, so I'm just going to kind of ignore that for now. This is going to be the tape measure. I made a very soft square, put a flat rectangle underneath of it, so now it kind of looks like a snail maybe or something like that. Add a little circle to it right in the center of your gentle square, and you have a very rudimentary tape measure. Very rudimentary tape measure. This is going to become a hammer. I'm rolling out a piece of the light blue gum paste again. I'm tapering it so it's wider on one end and thinner on the other. I take a teardrop shape that I bend the teardrop part over. That's going to become the claw part of the hammer. You see what I'm doing there? And make sure it's bent over nice and neat, nice and even. Put it at the top of your hammer. Take another piece, cut out a little circle. Stick that on the front of your little hammer head there, and there you go. See, nothing too hard so far. Now I'm going to make some needle nose pliers. I have kind of a figure 8 that I made. I had 2 circles cut out, but they don't touch each other, you see. There's space in between. I trimmed on the outside, so now it really is as if I were trying to make a figure 8. I'm going to cut the bottom out in the center. You see, I just went straight down from the center. That's going to become the handle of my needle nose pliers. And then for the top, I'm going to do the same, but you see how it's a little longer at the top, and I'm going to cut the edges at the top at an angle. Watch how I go it right out. I'm going out at an angle, so now I have more of the shape of the pliers, how the head of them has kind of like that flat inside grip. That's what I'm trying to get the look of, and I don't think I did too shabby of a job either. I'm just trimming off some extra because the one side's a little bit fatter than the other. Trying to make it nice and even without losing that little effect. I put just a little ball pressed down in the center to, kind of represent the hinge. And you see, there they are. Okay, this is going to be a wrench of some sort. I am not mechanically inclined, so please forgive me if I get these names wrong or just don't even name it properly at all. but I think this is some type of a wrench. I have the big handle. It kind of looks like a shovel, like a little kid's toy shovel right now. But you're going to make 2 cuts straight down the center and then cut it out. You're almost taking like a square cut out of the center. And now I'm going to cut again from the middle toward the outside at an angle. See, like that, just like we did with the pliers a moment ago. This gives it more of the kind of wrench shape. It should be a little flatter at the bottom of the wrench head, I guess. So yeah, I mean, you could try to do a little better than I did. I was freehanding everything. I was, winging it, so not too shabby. I put a little piece in the center, a little rectangular piece that I'm putting lines in to represent the little adjustable screw, because apparently it's an adjustable wrench. I know that is a tool. I'm not sure if it's that actual tools, but it is in this video. So there you go. All right, I am going to make a pair of shears now. So I made 1 circle at the bottom, as you saw, cut it out straight down like before to make the handle, just like before. So you can just trim it off, shaping it up a little bit, making it nice and tidy once again. And I wasn't exactly sure how to do the top, so this is my first idea, was to just make a line straight down the middle. And now I have a giant mouthed fish, and it's like Pac-Man, almost like Waka Waka. But anyway, so I realized what I had to do to make it look better. I cut 2 more lines, basically took a giant V out of the center to leave skinny little shears on the side. Now it actually looks like shears. So I put another little ball in the center for another hinge joint. Put a couple little lines on the handle just to represent the handle. And we got our tools. All right, now time to place them on the cake. I made them a little bit bigger than I anticipated, because I tend to get a little bit overexcited when I make my decorations. And so I am placing them along the very edge of the cake in the blank areas just because I thought it looked cool. And I ended up not using that trowel. That's why I said pretend it wasn't there, and I talked over it because it didn't matter anyway. All right, I am making some extra decorations for the side of the cake because why not? I'm going to make some gears, I'm going to make some bricks, I'm going to make some pipes, and some screws. So these are going to be my gears. I just went for colorful, so I chose pink because it's bright and colorful. I had my original circle, as you saw. I took a smaller circle, a lot smaller, cut out a center hole there, and I'm using a very small one to now just take little bites out of the entire outer edge of the circle. So now it's got more of a gear shape. And I made 3 of them in different sizes because why the heck not? I'm going to make my bricks now. Once again, I'm going for colorful, so I decided to do red. I made a bunch of squares first because I don't have rectangular cutters. And once I made my squares, I just took, not half of it off, maybe a quarter of it, a third of it off. And just enough to get a nice rectangular shape out of it. And there you go, bricks, right? Not so hard. I did also round off the corners a little bit. I didn't want it too sharp because Chico Bon Bon has a lot of very rounded edges. There's nothing really sharp to the construction in his show, except for maybe screws and nails, but even those aren't too terribly sharp. But anyway, so there are my bricks. We've got bricks. Now to make my screws. I make a V first, a V cut first with 2 lines on the outside. And then I go big one across the top, couple small ones down and on the sides. Basically, I am making letter T's, and the T is just really pointy at the bottom. I made an indent across the top for the head of the screw, and then some lines at a diagonal down the body of it. And screws. There you go. Like real easy. Just make a pointy letter T. That's all you got to do. Use your knife blade once again. Trim off the extra part there. Make a little separation for the head of the screw and some lines going down the side, and there you go. Now we're going to put it together. I decided to separate out my bricks. I wasn't exactly sure what I was going to do with them, but I decided to just stack up some on one side, stack up some on the other side, as you see. And when you do stack them, make sure you stack them like bricks. So make your seam at the bottom go into the center of the brick above it. Stuck my screws on. I'm just using a little bit of water on the back of my gum paste decorations here in order to make it stick, because my buttercream is a crusting one and I stuck it in the fridge, so it is very crusty. Now I am adding my screws, sticking them hither and thither wherever I feel like it needs a little touch of color, because the purple ended up setting and came out a little darker than I had anticipated. I would have gone with a lighter color if I were to do it over again. Hindsight is 20/20, right? So here's my green. I just rolled out some green in really long pieces. I didn't think you needed necessarily to see it. Just long, thin strips of green. And I just bent it around, cut off pieces, connected them here and there. And I'm pretending those are going to be pipes of some sort. Or maybe wires. Who knows? He does it all, right? Chico is a very versatile little monkey with a tool belt. So I just, once again, chose green just to add some different color to it, make it more interesting. I had to take off one of the screws for the pipes, but I'm sticking it back on. Oh, there goes my son. So one last touch. Can't forget the main character himself. Stick Chico on top, and now your Chico Bon Bon cake is looking fabulous. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please like and subscribe because that really does help me, believe it or not. I have a ton of other videos out there, so please take a look. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.